Hello, everybody. I'm Jack. I'm the Hood Sommelier, and welcome to Monday Sucks. If you had a case of Mondays, obviously, we are here every Monday to cheer you up, speak whiskey, talk whiskey, and maybe brighten your Monday better than everybody else's Monday. Welcome to Monday Sucks. Like I say, I'm Jack Biggidoo. I'm the Hood Sommelier, but with me is my esteemed co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the person that need no introduction. Damn it! What's happening,
Yo, what
man?
is good?
What
We
is
here,
happening?
baby. We are live. We are ready to
We
go.
are live. If you're just like me right now, make sure that you actually get your stream. We are streaming now on Facebook and on YouTube. Make sure you actually go at least on your Facebook and share this with your whiskey group, just like I do every time. I just go in and I share with my whiskey group, so we can actually build and grow this community the way we do it on the show. So I'm getting it right now. I'm gonna share with my group because today is going to be special. Today we are going to do something out of the ordinary because we're going to get you guys involved. The way the show is going to go today is we are going to stop a little earlier on YouTube and Facebook, and we're going to move to Instagram to finish there because we have a guest.
We do.
We have somebody special, the most known name in the single malt industry right now. I'm rocking his shirt. Look at that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't get a cool shirt. I didn't get no cool shirt.
Yeah, you weren't cool enough, man. I
Hey,
was the one. I was the cool kid. So I'm rocking his shirt right now. He is one of the most known people in the industry right now. I've heard of him before I met him. That's how popular he is. But before, without further ado, we'll bring our guest in, the myth, the legend in the single malt industry right now, representing Starwards. Jake, what's up, brother?
Guys, we made it. Did it.
You
Yo.
know what? I'm gonna bring you in a sandwich with us. Look at
There
that.
we
You
go.
are the sandwich now.
Nice.
Boom. You're in.
That's where I want to
Man
be,
in the
baby.
middle.
You are the meat of our
That's what I
sandwich.
need to be.
Yeah, buddy.
Welcome,
Tim,
welcome,
I'll have
welcome,
to get you one
welcome.
of those T-shirts. I only had like one XL and one small. So do you want the small?
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah. I'll
Tim,
wash your car in a small shirt.
dude,
Let's
you
go.
you've been telling me
Let's
this whole
go.
time that you always wanted a crop top. This is the opportunity, man. You get to have a crop top.
Definitely.
I'm ready.
Love it.
I'm ready to party. Let's go.
Before we start, Jake, before you introduce yourself to the world, I just want to thank you because you're probably on point. We receive more message from everybody on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook saying thank you for sending sample over. For all of you guys that receive a sample, this was our packet that we received from Star Wars. Have all the samples in. Me personally, I wanted to bring Star Wars on because I've been in a few of your, I have a few of your sample pack that came in my house. I love the juice. I love what you guys are doing, and it only makes sense that you come on the best show on the internet right now that speak about whiskey, so you can talk to the people, so other people can discover what you guys have going on right now. Before we jump on, I'm gonna get into my technical my technical thing right now, and I'm gonna actually bring y'all in on IG, and then you get to introduce yourself to the people. So uh, Monday sucks with Star Wars, you know.
Boom.
That's what we're gonna call it with Star Wars.
Slangs it.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars,
Yeah,
nothing but Star
everybody
Wars
kept saying the
all of
same
the
thing. Like that's the
time.
coolest box that I got in the mail because it said
Go.
everybody was singing. But I'm gonna go on IG right now. If you phone us on IG, welcome. This is Monday Sucks. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are now on IG, and I'm gonna bring Tim in. I'm gonna bring a Jake
Got
in, so
platforms.
we can start the show the right way. Welcome, welcome,
Falling
welcome.
down.
Welcome, party people. Yeah, he
Boy,
is
there we
here.
go.
He is here. He is here. So I'm bringing Tim in, and I'm bringing you in. Let me see, in the lake.
I sent the request, baby. Oh, here we
Yeah.
come. I see the circle.
Circles happening.
Yeah,
All
there
right,
it is.
all right, all right. Let me
Meet
kill
this
my
guy. There we go. Mute that guy.
Yeah, I'm muting myself here, and then I get to hear y'all. Okay,
Are we muting Instagram Live or muting the computers?
mute your computer so we can all be on Instagram Live. It's easier that way.
Oh, you want me to do over here?
No, just the computer, the our stream. We can mute it, and then we can all go on Instagram for the show. If you're here, welcome. If you receive, put an F in the chat if you receive a packet from Starward. The winners and people that actually participated on our post about Starward, you guys actually received something in the mail, and you get to actually taste with us today. Without further ado, Jake, present yourself to the people. Tell them who you are, what do you do, and why are you here with us today.
I don't know why I'm here, but no, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. No, I am. I'm a brand ambassador for Starward whiskey. I'm based out of Chicago, Illinois. I am the Midwest brand ambassador for our great Australian whiskey distillery out of Melbourne, Australia. That's right. You know, the night after the Australian 4x100 swimming team upset the U.S. swimming team. I think that's right. I'm not totally sure. I'm not following the Olympics day by day, hour by hour. But, you know, cheers to Australia, even though I'm American. But I guess I have to pledge my allegiance to them tonight as we talk some Australian whiskey with, I'm sure, a vast, vast American audience that probably enjoys a little bourbon and rye just like myself. But yeah, I'm represented here under Key in the Lake, which is the whiskey podcast I started a little over 2 years ago now, and was basically meant to tell the story behind the whiskey label. It was all about talking to distillers, talking to reps, talking to bartenders, bar owners, luminaries in the whole whiskey industry, and getting their story out, telling people all about why they love whiskey, where they come from, where their background exists, and we kind of go off the script a little bit and talk about anything, maybe some Matt Dillon movies, some James Bond movies, wherever we go here and there, some punk rock from the 1990s. It kind of it has a versatile range, a little tangential, but we try to speak the whiskey card as much as possible. But yeah, when it comes to Starward, I've been working for them for almost the exact same amount of time when I started the podcast to when I got hired with the company. I met Dave Vitale, the founder, during Whiskey Week here in Chicago in 2019. And after a couple pints at Goose Island and a conversation about where he wanted the brand to go, he offered me a job, and I couldn't resist. It was such a cool opportunity to build a brand in America with an innovative style of making single malt whiskey from all Australian-based products, and kind of making Australia on the map when it comes to distilling whiskey.
Absolutely. So if you guys just joining us, we are live on IG, Facebook, and YouTube. We are talking today to Jake, the brand ambassador of Starward. We sent out about 20 kits out there for everybody that actually is going to come on. So by the end of the show, what we're going to do when we stop on YouTube and Facebook, we'll be bringing people on for 5 minutes. Tell us about the tasting. Tell us about what they got on their note with Jake, so they got a chance to talk to the brand ambassador directly. Jake, tell us a little bit of the story of Starward, because obviously single malt, as for those who don't know, is more known to be a Scottish, aka European thing. You don't hear a lot of brand. I think only last year you heard of Bladnock, and then Starward coming on their way from Australia, taking over the U.S. market. Tell us a little bit about the story of Starward, how it came about, and why you think is something that people should try.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for setting that up, because it is something they should try. Because if we are whiskey lovers, as we preach ourselves out there to be every day on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, MySpace, whatever we're going on these days, we should try to see what's happening out there in the world and outside of America. But the real story of Starward started about 15 years ago, a little more than that, I guess, when our founder, Dave Vitale, calls himself a frustrated home brewer, wanted to make some sort of spirit, some sort of alcohol for the world. And when he realized beer doesn't travel that well across the country, across the world for that matter, he took an apprenticeship at Bark Distilling over in Tasmania, and really transformed his craft of brewing into distilling, and had this newfound love of craft distilling, if you will, based out of Tasmania, based out of Australia. It was kind of combined with his love for single malt that is well drank over in Australia, obviously with the roots they have from England and Scotland, all of Britain. But they also have a love for bourbon. They're the fifth largest importer of bourbon in the world. And when you grow up drinking those two drinks from different parts of the world, but no real Australian whiskey, his thought was, why can't I do this myself? Why can't I take the grains? Why can't I work with farmers, find barrels from around Australia, and produce it into a bottle and present it to the rest of the world with a lot of pride of Australia kind of on his back, but also in the bottle too. But our main claim to fame is that we use red wine barrels to fully mature our whiskeys inside of. It's not just a finish. It's not a 14-month finish. It's not a long extended finish. It's a 3 to 4 year maturation inside of these wine casks. So we work with local vineyards in Barossa and Yarra Valley, which are two wine regions around us in Melbourne, where we work with about 35 vineyards to get fresh wine barrels that are dumped. And then within 2 to 3 days, we're putting whiskey inside of there. So a lot of Shiraz, Pinot, and Cab barrels where we want to get those big, fruity, bold flavors from those wines, which kind of the world knows when it comes to alcohol in Australia being a partnership together is red wine. So we're able to establish ourselves with a little bit of the alcohol industry by using those red wine casks to fully mature our whiskeys to bring those great fruity notes to our whiskey, but also bring in some very calm, soothing palate flavors, even though we don't really produce that high of whiskeys when it comes to fruit points. Most of our whiskeys are below 87. 3 of the 4 we're going to try tonight are 86 or lower. So it's kind of about an accumulation of bringing all Australian products into the bottle at the end of the day. So we still work with local farmers to get our grains. We developed our yeast strains by local agriculture there, but we also use the temperature, the climate to our advantage when it's a very fast fluctuating temperature. It goes from 110 to 60 degrees in a summer's day just by a drop of a hat. So we kind of use that to our advantage. We think we have the hardest working barrels in the world, and we have about 14,000 red wine casks fully maturing our whiskey right now in our 2 warehouses, which it seems like a lot. It is a lot, but it still puts us on like kind of just above that craft level of what we're producing in a single year. But we use it to our advantage. We think that our barrels are opening and contracting so much more of a higher rate of speed than other parts of the world. And we don't want to compare ourselves to Scotland and to Ireland and Japan, like you mentioned before. That's where we think of, that's where our mind goes to when it comes to single malts. What our whole goal is, what Dave Vitale's goal was when starting the company 15 years ago was, let's make an Australian single malt whiskey.
So this is Australian single malt whiskey. You guys differentiate yourself because it is made and produced in bottles in Australia.
Yes, sir. Everything has been done by our distillery. There was never any sourcing or anything like that. Dave actually had the idea for Starward while he was working at Lark, and took his idea to Bill Lark, who's kind of known as the godfather of whiskey over in Australia, by building that whole scene up over the last 23, 25 years, when essentially when he started, there was no distilling or very little of it happening. And now there are like 200 plus distilleries overall in the country when it comes to gin, vodka, and whiskey. Huge brewing scene there too. But Dave took this idea to Bill, and Bill was like, "It's a great idea. I think you should do it on your own, but not here." Kind of one of those things, like, hey, this is an awesome concept you're having, but we have our philosophy here at Lark, but you have a great idea and that ethos that you could build into your own company.
All right. As we have this in our hand, this is a whiskey show after all. What are we starting with?
Twofold, baby.
We starting with Twofold. So, tell us a little bit about Twofold, because obviously, before you tell us about Twofold, the traditional single malt, for people that love single malt, you should understand that most of the grain is European. Most of the barrels obviously are American, and then you have the sherry and port, and that come from Europe. But most single malt that you guys know are all made in Scotland. They have about hundreds of distilleries in Scotland, obviously, and as you know them. But when they say Australian whiskey or Australian single malt whiskey, is the grain provenance also from Australia?
Yes, sir. All the farms we use are within a
even the yeast strain.
Yep.
It's part of the terroir.
Yep. 100%.
Okay.
Our whole goal as a company is to represent place. And we think that whiskey is best served when representing place. And the idea can really come through in the bottle and into the drinker when they know that this is all a truly local product. And if we were using even, let's say, ex-bourbon casks, we thought it'd be really too close to recreating the wheel of Scotch, recreating the wheel of other distilleries across the world. So we took these local red wine barrels. But when it goes to twofold, as we've been talking so much about single malt, this is actually more of a blend. Of
So
the
why did you guys call this one twofold? So for all of you guys that are seeing on the internet, this is what it looks like. And if you want to see what a bottle of it look like, which I have somewhere. I thought I brought the bottle here.
I got you, Jack. I'm holding one up.
Okay, perfect.
Well, there you go.
So if you guys ever see this on the shelf, it's called twofold. I'm assuming there is a story about two different type of something.
Yeah, definitely. For sure, my man. Yeah, you're right on. So we've been talking so much about single malts. Well, this is actually a blend of malted barley and wheat. Wheat is the second most readable grain in the area where we're based out of in Australia in that southeast corridor. And barley is the most readable grain, most produced grain. So we thought, why not use both best of those worlds when we can take two grains from the same area to make a whiskey. It also didn't hurt at all that we were coming into the American market, and we all know what wheat's doing over here in America. So we thought, why not use that to our advantage? As I mentioned earlier, our owner loves bourbon. He also loves single malts, and one of his favorite bourbons of all time is Maker's Mark. And kind of show the homage of what he enjoys in his glass by using the grains around him in Australia. He thought I could not perfect, but at least it's still a pretty good whiskey by using wheat and malted barley. So both these grains are distilled separately. We actually use a Del Paso distillation for all of our single malts, kind of honoring that old school mentality, the old world mentality of distilling. Then the wheat is distilled on a column still. And then after both the grains are distilled, they're barrel aged separately in a variety of Shiraz, Pinot, and Cab barrels, anywhere between 3 to 4 years. Then after the maturation, we blend them together or marry them together, is a term that we use, for about 3 to 5 days in a stainless steel vat before proofing it down to 80 and bring it to you in your glass.
The nose is very bready.
Oh yeah, I put
very bready.
We got very yeasty rolls, man. Just like yeasty rolls, bright.
It reminds me of a bakery.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's like walking into a bakery right when the yeast rises and they're getting ready to bake stuff. It's very bready. Obviously fruity on the note, but more savory in the bready side of like you almost Hawaiian roll. That's exactly what you get. That Hawaiian roll smell that you get on the nose.
I like that.
On the taste, I don't know what give it that little edge of spiciness on the mid palate.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's about 60-40 wheat to malted barley. That's why obviously we're getting a lot of that yeasty flavor from it on the nose and both on our palate too, I think.
40 is bold on making that 40% wheat. That's a true bold statement.
60 wheat.
60 wheat, yeah. So that's what is taking over this whole glass, man.
Absolutely, for sure. And then I get like a Teddy Graham, kind of like honey flavor to it in a way. But as we talk about bread,
it's very sweet on the palate for sure.
Yeah. The finish is a little more bacon spice, more burning. Is it because of the wine cask?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with this one, I think each one of our whiskeys that we produce always has one certain element of wine that prevails more than another. And with twofold, I get a lot of cab flavor. I get a dry cab, but creamy and buttery as well. Spectre said some cinnamon, some apple, and apple is probably my number one note, especially like a green apple.
I get green apple for sure, dude. Absolutely.
I guess I'm fruity. I can't place it. For me, it's more on the pear side.
I get raisins too. I get raisins, and then I don't know about for you guys, but it's like. It's almost like creamy on the palate. Like I don't want to go as far and say butter, but like
No, for me, it actually tickles the palate. For me, it's a little more like a scratch on your palate. Like when you drink wine and that dryness stays in the back of your palate. That's what I get. Like I can think of the tannins. I'm getting those tannins of wine that are creating almost that spiciness to it, but it's more of a dry wine, not bacon spice.
There you go, Rova. Viscosity. Yep.
Yeah, I think like raisin's been something that's been said a little bit in here in the chat, and I agree with that. But almost like a clovey raisin, like it's very slight, nothing crazy, but you're talking about that tickle, and that's definitely where
I'm talking about like what is it? The green raisins or the white raisins, whatever they are, not the.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, dude.
I get some people say white pepper as well.
Yeah.
That's the earthiness. I'm getting some earthiness, and it's like earthy. So we throw white pepper on that, but it's also like dried hay, like wet dried hay, but then it got wet.
Yeah, it's like kind of like an umami savory flavor to it, like earthy in that sense for sure. Yeah, it's a unpredictable whiskey. I think when people say like, "Hey, it's Australian," first of all, they make whiskey in Australia.
Yeah,
then like every day I have to contend with all the proof chasers out there that won't drink anything under less than 110. And this is at 80, but I think it's not. I'm not saying it tastes like 100, but I think it does drink higher than 80 in that sense. But
definitely drinks higher than 80 proof.
It does drink higher than 80 proof because when you're drinking it, because of that pepperiness or those tannin, it makes you feel like it's a higher proof. But when it goes down, you don't get none of that hug from what you're supposed to get from any spirits that is above 100. So that tells you that it's almost intriguing enough for you to go back to it. That's what I see it more as something that is intriguing enough for you to go back to it and go, well, maybe let me try one more time. So, I like
that Spectre said it starts off light and sweet, like an 80 proof, but then finishes long and peppery. Yes.
The color is also very interesting. I have a hue of almost burgundy to it.
Yeah, and that's those barrels. I mean, people always ask us, do we add coloring to our whiskey? And the answer is no. It's 100% natural from those red wine barrels. And a lot of that has to do with the fresh filling element that we've established at our distillery over the last 14, 15 years, is that we want those wine flavors in our whiskey, but it's all about finding that right balance. I mean, so many things in life are about finding that right balance. I mean, everything really is. Just look at the NBA this year with all the injuries that happen in playoffs, where you can't play defense, but you can play a little bit of offense, and the Bucks come out on top.
Do you usually finish most of your single malt? Not really single malt, but most of your spirit in mainly wine cask?
So yeah, it's not, and that's the most important thing I would love for everybody to take away. Is like it's not a finish; it's a complete maturation.
In it.
Yeah. So like every step of the way, every minute, every hour, every day, it's in a wine barrel and nothing else.
So obviously, Australia can get hot, just like Texas and those places. What's the maturation time that they use? What's the minimum maturation time?
Minimum, so the requirement by law is 2 years. Yeah, and it lets us. There's only like really 4 laws when it comes to making whiskey in Australia. That's being one of them. It has to be made in Australia. It has to be distilled from a fermented grain. And then the big one that leaves it just like wide open, shooting like essentially a cannon through a piece of paper, is that it has to taste like whiskey.
Okay. Hey, I agree with that. What would be our next thing to taste?
Right. And like I love how there isn't this huge list of defined laws like bourbon. I mean, there's reasons why we have laws for bourbon, obviously. Something to establish ourselves as an American whiskey, as an American product. I think we're living through history right now when it comes to American single malts. Development that's happening with American single malts is amazing, but I hope they don't, pinhole themselves too much, because everywhere in the country is so different when it comes to making whiskey based on the elements in maturing whiskey. And that's what we have here in Australia. The average a day in Australia is getting close to 80 degrees per day, the average temperature. And the average daily temperature in Scotland is like 42 degrees. Well, we're not going to barrel age whiskey for 12 years inside of these sherry, like, not as sherry butts, but like wine butts that are 59. Some of them are 59, 60 gallons. And then at the end of the day, after 10 years, come out with like a quarter to a third of a barrel because we're losing anywhere between 6 to 8%. In some of our experimental casts that are smaller 30-gallon casts, we lose half in a year. And we're playing around with the temperature, playing around with the climate in a way that we're always tasting and using our senses to see what our whiskeys are doing. The whiskey is ready that we think to go into a batch. Usually about 25 barrels in a batch of whiskey. After 2 years, we'll put it in there. If we don't, we'll put it back on the rickhouse, put in the rickhouse, and see what it does over the next 4 to 6 months and how it changes and develops. And if we think it needs to go to 5 years because it's in a cooler spot, whatever it may be, we'll take the time to do that. In the diversity of casks we have, we find a synchronicity in making our whiskey at the end of the day.
There's a question here saying, is anything done to the exit wine barrels before use?
That's a great question. Yeah, we barely do anything other than just steam them, hydrate them a little bit, bring them back to life. We only rechar about 20 to 25% of our casks, though. So like in the STR model, we aren't doing that all that much. We are going to try something later on down the road that all the casks are charred in the Solera. But for Twofold and Nova, the first 2 whiskeys we're going to try, we'll pour Nova next to anybody if you want to go ahead and jump ahead. Those whiskeys, most of them aren't going to have recharred casks. So they're just hydrated a little bit, steam coat them is what we call them, and then put whiskey right inside of them.
Just some moment here. Let me
Oh my god.
Who's having an echo? Hold
I think it's you.
Anybody move your phone a little bit away from your computer, because when the two are close to each other.
My computer's muted, so.
So is mine.
The tone difference. What do you call it? Jake. Yeah, I think Jake is you.
The farther I get away, the worse.
Let me see.
How's that?
Yeah, I muted you on here. That's why you are. Let me see.
Yeah,
This is wild.
I muted myself. Did you mute yourself on your computer? On your laptop? Okay, bring the volume completely down. Let's see if this will make it better so we can actually see. For some reason, there's always like a interference when your phone is too close to your laptop.
Sounds like toads.
Yeah. Yeah, your ears are bleeding, I know.
How's that? I don't hear anything.
Yeah, you can't hear anything because we are we are outputting. So
Gotcha.
it seems to be better. So okay, good to go now. Yeah, better.
Cool.
Yeah. So what's the next thing we're tasting? Because first one is already gone.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's go to Nova.
I saved a little. I tried to save a little bit of Twofold. I'm trying to come back to it.
So from all of you guys that received your packet, it looks like what do you call it? This is the Nova. It was matured in a red wine barrel, which is very, very big. So I'm gonna ask which red wine barrels, and it's 41 proof. So that's probably the lowest besides Singleton that I've seen on whiskey that is at 40 or 41 proof. So I'm very curious of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Jake, are you guys proofing down?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So we usually pull around. We enter around 110 and usually pull between 110 to 114.
Okay.
So we do a long staging of proofing down as well. It's not just about adding water in and basically proofing down like in a matter of minutes with us. It's a long process of proofing down to that 80 to 82 for both of these two whiskeys. But kind of getting back to what we do with Twofold, it's really the same wine barrels, but Nova itself is our flagship whiskey. When we go into new markets, we lead with this because single malt whiskey is what we want to create, and the red wine barrels is the experience you want to bring to a single malt and for the consumer to enjoy. So a lot of Shiraz, probably about 13 out of 25, 13 to 15 of the 25 casks in a batch are going to be Shiraz, and then Pinot and Cabs rounded out to around 4 to 5 per wine barrel for those two, but mostly focusing on those Shiraz. And with this one, it's going to be much more like a peppier experience. I think a little bit more of what you'd find in like a Space Side, maybe a Highland. Not trying to compare ourselves to what they've done over there.
Is that 100% malt?
Yeah.
100% this will be your flagship, pretty much your single malt, your true single malt whiskey.
Definitely. This is one you can find every day on the shelves. Solera, which we're going to try next, the limited time offer that we have, which is also 100% single malt, but it's a 100% malted barley, excuse me. But this one is what we really focus on making on a daily basis, for sure.
Yeah, this definitely reminds me of Space Side. This is nice. I like this. I know you said you don't want to compare things, but like that's such a spot on comparison because I get like, yeah, that's man, that's tasty.
Somebody's asking a question. Which one of these bottles? I'm gonna display this. Which one of these bottles are readily available?
Yeah, so Twofold and Nova are in about 17 different markets across the U.S. states that way. We also sell online at starward.com.
Okay,
and I'll put it in the chat too.
But display that, and I'll put that as a I'll pin that as well.
At checkout, if you put summer in, you get 20% off.
Okay. Let me put that on both chats so people can actually know it. It's Starward.
Yeah, and then we can deliver to about 40 different states on starward.com. So
Starward.com, and use code
SUMMER, all caps.
Okay. So don't say y'all never got anything from the show. We're just giving you discounts right now.
Yeah. So then, and then Solera, we sell in about 5 different states. We only get about 100 cases per year sent to us from our distillery. So we'll get into that when we try.
Code SUMMER.
Yes, sir.
Okay. For 20% off, right?
Yep.
All right. Y'all are welcome now.
Man.
For 20% off. Okay. Let me make sure.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with this smell, but it's so forefront to me on this.
I have it displayed now, and I'm gonna pin it right now.
Thank
For
you, sir.
all of you guys that actually are here right now, you're hearing it. If you need any Starwards, just go on www.starward.com and use code SUMMER.
Yep. All caps.
Yep, for 20% off. And I'm gonna pin it.
Floral nose for sure, Matt. I agree with you 100%.
There y'all go. So don't say I didn't give you anything. Starward's available. It is available immediately on Starward themselves. Go on their website. Somebody's asking if you sell in Minnesota. I would say go on their website and see if they can ship to Minnesota.
Yep. We are opening up Minnesota next month.
Okay, they're opening up Minnesota next month. So there you go.
Yep.
So as you can see, we have viewers from all around the U.S. and Europe. The one thing I always remind people, single malt is a vast world, right? It's probably the most interesting word to explore. The question here is, glad to try again as the sample is better. Now I need to figure out why this is the case. So apparently somebody thinks their sample is better than the bottle that they have. Huh. Is it because it's a different batch?
Yeah, I mean, we shoot for consistency, obviously, but we do batch together barrels from, 2 to 4 years, 2 to 5 years, really, at this point. And we're using barrels from all over Australia, wine barrels from all over Australia. That could be it. It could have been a bottle that sat in a hot truck for a little too long, too. That definitely happens. That's interesting, though. I don't know. I mean, I've never tasted any Nova that is completely different from one batch to the other. So it's strange. I mean, I guess it just really could be from the barrels that a certain batch had. We do freight these over here from all the way across the world. So there could be, some time spent in some hot containers.
I really like this. I really like this. It's low proof. It's very approachable.
Yeah.
It's very, very approachable. I think every new beginner in whiskey can start with the Nova.
It's a great point. I think that's what we shoot for as well. Is that we shoot for those whiskey explorers to have our whiskey, the people that are out there that are trying new things. But I think it's approachable for anybody who's anywhere out on their whiskey journey. If they're a novice, or somebody who been drinking single malts for 25 years.
And you say Nova is available on the shelves?
Yeah, definitely. It's about $50.
Yeah. Usually when I teach Scotch school, at the end of my class, usually I try to bring Scotch from other places, right? Kind of tell people single malt from other places are different. I never thought about bringing Australia single malt, but this now may be part of the package because I always bring American single malt, but Australia single malt now. I can talk about it.
Jake, how many distilleries are doing single malt in Australia?
A lot of them. So around 40 to 50, I'd probably say easily.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there's just so many distilleries that are experimenting with the grains around them. Like, so there's some distilleries that are producing rye as well down there, which is weird to think they could grow rye in Australia.
Yeah, I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah,
it has to be a cold weather to grow rye.
Yeah, there's certain parts that get cool enough during the wintertime that they can get those crops to be grown down there. So people are playing around with it. I would say single malt, from the experience I've had down there, the people I've talked to the brands that I see coming across the way over to the U.S., single malt is most popular, and that kind of dates back to their heritage, where they're coming from, what they've drank for centuries, decade to decade over the last 120 years, really. But it's a long history with single malt over in Australia. There was a distillery there in the late 1800s, early 1900s. That was like the 5th largest producer of single malt in the world. They were producing rapidly. They kind of went through a gold rush like Northern California did in the late 1800s, where they enjoyed the finer things of life and were importing a lot of Scotch as well. But due to like World War I and Prohibition in America, where we started drinking more Scotch somehow than ever, during that period of time, getting stuff in here through those borders and all that other stuff, it just kind of fell out after World War II. And there's a period in the 80s where there was no distilling taking place. So people like Bill Lark, these other people that are pioneers, like our boss Dave Vitale, were the ones that started to raise it back up on a craft level.
The question here is how many expressions do you have out? We obviously have tried the twofold. We've tried the Nova. Right now we have the Solera that is still part of it. Is there any other expression beside those ones?
Yeah, in America, that's about it, other than our single barrels, which we have around 40 to 50 in the U.S. But over in Australia, we have a bunch of LTOs. We have some pretty fun stuff, like our ginger beer cask, which
so cool.
Yeah, it's a cult following, if you will. As our boss says, you have a better chance of getting into Harvard than winning one of these bottles each year. So we only sell it out of our bar. We have a 300-person seated bar at our distillery.
Holy
giant,
smokes.
massive bar. Yeah, check it out online. It's a pretty cool space to hang out at. But so we do. They have much more lax laws, the right laws, if you will, when it comes to selling whiskey and alcohol over in Australia. So we do a lot of special one-offs. We have a tawny cask where we barrel age essentially Nova, but only in tawny barrels for 4 years. Yeah. So America, though, 3 different offerings when it comes to Nova, Solera, and twofold, and then our single barrels will be our 4th.
Yeah. If you guys have friends in Australia, make sure you reach out to them, because this is the place to actually go get your stuff. I would say this one went down real fast. I don't know about you guys, but my Nova went down so fast because it's 40 proof and it's so enjoyable. So far, that place number 1 in my list right now. Let's jump on into the Solera. Now, Solera is interesting because you guys are calling it Solera. Is it because it was mature in Solera barrel? Because I see here mature in Apera barrels. So why did you call it Solera?
Yeah, definitely. Good question. So we do honor the Solera system of
Very
wine
cool.
Solera in this, but instead of doing it like a barrel and pipe organization, we do it through a vatted organization of it. But when I was talking earlier about how we recharge some of our casks, we always recharge these barrels. So we get these a para cask, which is fortified wine. Essentially, it's Australian sherry, but don't say it to a Spaniard because they obviously would take offense to that. But it is in the style of making Spanish sherry, but it's called a para when being crafted in Australia. So it was really I guess, the heart and soul of our company. This was the very first whiskey we ever made 14 years ago. It was the first whiskey that Dave, our owner, started distilling and started putting into wine cask. And he used it from a winery called Yalumba, where he bought these Apera casks, 30-gallon casks, and brought them back to his distillery basically on an IOU. They're like, hey, you seem like a nice guy. He told them, I can't really afford to buy any of these barrels right now because I put all my money into the distillery, but I would love to barrel age my whiskey inside of your wine barrels. At the time, nobody in Australia was doing that, using the local red wine barrels to mature inside of. So he started barrel aging single malt inside these Apera casks, and he thought it turned out pretty well. But why not go a step further and honor that tradition of Australia sherry by mingling all these batches of whiskey together? So he didn't sell anything till like 4 years into after crafting it because he let these wine barrels mingle together in a large vat. And still to this day, we do that system whenever we take out about 15 to 20% at a time to be bottled. We refill it with 4-year-old whiskey that just got done maturing. So it's always replenishing, even after we take whiskey out of the vat, where you can find micro traces of the very first batches of whiskey we ever made inside of your glass.
Spicy honey. That's
Heck
what this
yeah.
glass has, is spicy honey.
So,
I call them
the same concept of rum Solera, right? Like,
right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the reason why I was a little thrown off by the Solera is obviously my favorite single malt is the Glenfiddich 15, which is actually aged in Solera barrels. That's why that's the standard for me when somebody says Solera. So I was thrown off by the type of. Do you know? Somebody's asking, can you tell us more about the Spanish tradition of the Solera? If you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, more of it is about the barrels themselves. Like, so I guess the easiest way to say, I'm not an expert on wine whatsoever, so don't get me too crazy in that. And this is obviously Australian sherry, so it's not sherry barrels from Spain. It's from Australia, but it's more about taking the sherry casks that are the fortified wine and barrel aging in that. So I'm pretty sure what Glenfiddich does, they get those barrels after the fact, so they call them Solera barrels because they've been mingling batches of wine together from different batches after being barrel aging. So I think how all my distilling friends do it is they have a piping network system that lets the barrels drop from the top to the bottom, where the batches are basically mingling together through a piping barrel system versus what we do with a vatted system of where we're just dumping it all together. But I don't want to speak for any other distilleries.
Perfect. Yeah, this Solera so far make it now number one on my list because I like this thing that he has. Yeah, somebody says zingy on the finish, but for me, it reminds me of spicy honey. Those preserved spicy preserve that you actually get from strawberry or peach preserve that are more used for food with a little bit of spice to it. That's definitely what I get on this.
It's super tropical too. Like, I think it's the first time I've ever gotten like tropical fruit notes in it.
Almost mango, like mango-ish. Yeah.
I'm going to let you guys go on about that because we're having a little internal discussion about right now if we think that tropical fruit notes come from our whiskey, which I think tropical fruit notes do come out of our whiskey, but people on our sales team might beg to differ.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but again, it depends on where you are.
True.
Have you tasted pineapple? Have you tasted mango?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting on the nose is really a mango, very spicy-ish mango.
I like that.
So somebody's asking when would the Solera be available?
So it is available in the U.S. right now. It's just a matter of finding it. We only sell it in California, pretty much to Chicago and Illinois, some parts of Texas, throughout New York and Tennessee.
Okay.
So we don't have it available on our website. As I mentioned earlier, we only get about 100 cases of it sent to us a year. So in Chicago, we get like 30 cases, maybe. It is.
Is it because that's your hometown? Am I sensing some bias over there?
You know, when we first opened up 2 years ago, we got 33 cases in New York, 33 cases in Illinois, 33 cases in California. But we've widened our horizons a little bit when it comes to sales. So we don't sell it on our website, unfortunately. But at the same time, we try to have equal parts now throughout the country. We're going to expand it a little bit more. I think it's like around 120 cases as we open up new markets in the U.S. But you know, it is something that takes a little bit more time for us to barrel age inside of, or barrel age the whiskey, and then let it mingle together. But it has a lot to do with the barrels themselves. There was, as I mentioned when we first started talking about Solera, there was no one using red wine barrels for a secondary market when it came to anything other than basically putting flowers inside of them at their local Home Depot. So when Dave had the idea to start barrel aging whiskey, no one really knew how it was going to turn out, and it took a little bit of time for people to catch on to what was happening. But they definitely know now, because when I was over in Australia 2 years ago, I was talking to a local distiller, and they paid, I think, around $900 per barrel for a pair of casks. So these casks now are well sought after in the whole whiskey and distilling community, but also the brewing community too, where they want these barrels. So it's a little bit harder to find. Not every vineyard is making a para. It's kind of more of like a table wine when it comes to people over in Australia, which leans itself a little more to an older audience, which was something relatable for both Dave and I. We both come from he's an Italian immigrant, his family are Italian immigrants, my family's Italian. So we always had red wine sitting at our table, so we could find that mutual gratitude and love for having some sort of alcohol always sitting at the table. And when he started a distillery, he's like, why can't we do that with whiskey? Like, I've had plenty of terrible red wine, but why can't we use like the delicious cask to make some delicious whiskey with?
Absolutely. Now tell us about your barrel picks, because
you
send us a special cask here, a single cask release, which is the Golden Eagle.
Are we cask strength on this guy?
We are.
Cool.
They also have a really cool logo on it.
Because I've been following you for a while, I also love the Park Avenue Liquor Shop.
That is rad.
Barrel as well. I have that as well. And obviously, I'm part of the Drummers Club, and I also have their pick here of the Drummers Club, which is a single cask, 3 years. Most of your single casks are all 3 years from the Drummers Club. So tell us a little bit about your single cask program. And maybe Monday Stuff will have their own Starward single cast.
Oh, now we're talking, baby. I only have to sell 59 more single casts by the end of the year, so you just let me know.
Hey,
there we go. There we go.
We'll
do it.
Yeah, I mentioned, like, I always say that Solera is the heart and soul of our company, but I think our single casts are the essence of our company. And I truly mean that. I'm not just trying to be cheesy or poetic, but when it comes down to making single cask, and Jack, I think you were in that discussion a couple of weeks ago, and I put that post up about what should single cask represent for a distillery. And I think what they should do is take your core product and elevate it to a delicious level for everybody to understand and appreciate, and then bring it back to your core products and see what the distillery is doing for itself. And I know you were on a discussion last week with like Spectre about, don't taste a single barrel first from a company. Like, don't get into that and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then go back to like twofold and like, this is completely different. Well, yeah, it's two different whiskeys. It's not even the same mash bill. But with our single barrels, it's 100%. It's basically Nova at its base level of taking a single malt, distilling it, double apostle distillation, putting it in a red wine cask, usually a Shiraz cask, usually from Barossa Valley, which is one of the closest vineyard, one of the closest wine regions to us.
Wow.
And then barrel aging it for at least 3 years. We are going up to like 4 years, 7 months with some of our picks, and then releasing it cask strength. So this one came out at 110. I think this one does justice to the distillery for sure.
Whoa. Wait a minute, brother. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Can we get a moment of silence for how great this is?
We need a moment of silence for this eagle. Golden Eagle.
Yeah. So Gold Eagle is a local liquor store here in Chicago, just outside the city. They picked this last summer.
I was going to ask if it was. I was going to ask if it was a play on the Golden Eagle from Australia.
No, that'd be good though. They should have done that. They made this for their sticker instead of the Golden Eagle.
So
it's still cool. It's still cool.
So tell me a little bit. Let's say a group want to do Starwards.
Yeah.
What should that group be doing to actually get their hand on a single cask of Starwards?
They should DM me or email me first. So that's the first thing they should do. But I think it's what I love about this barrel. I think you would agree with this, guys, and I think everybody out there tasting it is that the nose invites in bourbon drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
It has this reminiscent feel to what a really great, delicious 110 proof bourbon could be. And then you taste it and you're like, oh, wait, there's like these stewed fruit flavors to it. There's just a little bit of brown sugary. There's this orange zestiness you get from like Glenfarclas on there. And you're kind of confused by it in a great way. And one of my favorite ways possible about tasting these whiskeys. So, you slide in my DMs anytime, Spectre. Yeah, it's something that I think when you look at Starward and you look at you're making single malt whiskey, you're using everything from Australia, but the main claim to fame is that you're using red wine barrels. And red wine barrels can be very volatile because if we let it age too long, we're going to get vinegar essentially out of those whiskeys.
Correct.
We steam them to kind of take away that sulfate, acidic note that's coming from the barrel initially, and then we put our whiskey inside there right away. And like I said, half hour ago or so, it's about finding that balance. So at the very beginning of our distillery, all of our distillers are brewers because Dave was a brewer by trade. And our whiskey is made basically like a fruity Hefeweizen at the very beginning stages of making our beer. And going on from there, bringing those fruit notes all the way at the end of our barrel aging. And one of the ways we keep consistency through that is that all the back of our house from our distilling team are all winemakers by trade.
Hey, so she's thick too.
I like the noises coming out of here.
I don't understand what is happening right now because is the I know Dalton kept saying viscosity, and I wasn't getting it. But when you drink this, it's so thick, that you literally
it's like a strawberry milkshake.
You almost have to enjoy it, even if you don't want to. You can't just swallow it. You can't have to keep it in your mouth for a little
chew on it, man.
It coats your mouth all over the front to the back palate. You almost can't get it out of your mouth, even if you want to.
Yeah, I agree. You have to do that whole, Booker chew on it.
He's only 3 years old.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
So when you're talking about 4-year barrels, put an F in the chat if you want to see Monday Sucks have a Starwards barrel. Put an F in the chat.
I'll put an F in that chat. There you go.
Put an F in the chat if you want to see us have a Starward barrel, because I think that would be one of those things.
I'm gonna tell you right now, okay? I'm not always all for having cool stickers on bottles, but this is what we need. I need a Starward pick with Rescuers Down Under on it all freaking day long. All day.
Can I just raise my hand real quick?
Yes.
Because I threw right before COVID came down, shut everything down. I threw a cocktail party at one of my favorite local cocktail bars here in Chicago, and we streamed Rescuers Down Under the entire night.
Thank you, sir.
It seems like we are seeing a lot of F.
And Crocodile Dundee too.
F in the chat. People want to see it. So, Jake, this week you and I would chat to see what exactly is it that we can do to make this thing happen. Because this right here, this right here is, if this is the caliber of single cast barrel that you guys are putting out in the streets, that means you and I need to chat. Because even though I'm an Isla person, I enjoy a nice whiskey that have what I like to call intricacies. Almost make me sit down and think about what in the heck is going on.
Damn it. That's my favorite one of the night.
Yeah.
I'm trying real hard not to finish it because
I'm going to tell you right now, this is a trap. You trapped us with this. You brought us in. We were walking in the streets thinking that we were safe. And next thing you know, we are trapped down. And now everybody, including anybody, is putting a Neff in the chat, even though they forgot to put a Neff already. They want to see this happen. I'm sitting there looking at this thing. It's viscous. It's oily. It tastes like I'm chewing on some red cherry fruit cognac mixed with it gushes in your mouth. I'm sorry, double entendre here, but just gushes in your mouth.
Hey, I'm the one sandwiched between two guys.
Steve's telling me to finish it. All right, Steve, let's go.
I think too, like what's special about our single cask is that we use different types of oak. So this is an American oak cask, but not recharred. Where there's I hate to say my favorite because whatever, I'm a distiller or for a distillery, so all my whiskeys are my children, blah blah. But there's one whiskey that we produced, we sold last year to Women Who Whiskey Chicago. That was a recharred American oak cask, 3 years, similar to this, but just elevated in all the flavors we've been discussing. That is just out of this world. And it's still, I'm baffled that Gold Eagle still has like 50 bottles of this remaining at their store and it's been there for like.
They do?
What? Yeah.
Bro,
they do.
If you guys need anything,
yeah.
There are collectibles.
Prepare your DM to explode.
We just broke the internet, folks. There you go.
We literally just broke the internet. Apparently, there's 50 bottles left of this.
Hey, DM Gold Eagle too. Jacob responds.
Just take my money already. That's what it is. It's just
take my money.
Yeah. They've just been out now for about 8 months on their shelves, and they're a little bit outside of Chicago, and they have a great following that loves whiskey. They love beer. They love wine there. But it's Australian. It's still one of those things that has to be brought to you, has to be presented in front of you, I think, to really try it. But the amount of support we've gotten from people out in that northwest part of Chicago has been amazing and immense to see.
How many bottles do you usually get from a cask?
We usually average about 240.
Damn, that's awesome. That's a great yield.
And like I said, we enter about 110, and somewhere come off between 110 to 114. I don't think I've seen any of ours a little bit higher than 113, like 113.5 or so. I think this one's like 110.2
okay, cool.
To be exact. But yeah, it's an amazing whiskey. When I talked to groups about picking when they were sitting there tasting the whiskeys in front of each other, I always ask, like, what is your objective to bring a single barrel to your club or to your shop or even your bar? You got some at the bars. Well, just one here in Chicago, Delilah's off their barrel.
Love Delilah's.
I was a little late because I was at Delilah's before I came on this, so I apologize. But I always ask them, like, what do you want? Do you want something that represents the taste buds of your staff, the taste buds of your group, and the customers that come to your store, or do you want something to represent the distillery on a single cask level that elevates the flavors of the whiskey? And I think this one does that. When you think about Nova and Solera, there's definitely elements inside of there, but it's elevated cask strength. I mean, we're talking almost 30 points higher when comparing it to Nova. But it still has the pepperiness to it. It still has some orange zestiness. It has a chocolatey taste to it, but it is much more enhanced, that clove flavor, that stewed fruit flavor, because of the cask strength element. And when I brought this to Gold Eagle, I thought it was going to be their winner because they have a lot of bourbon drinkers. Come through their shop. They have a lot of groups that come there and take bourbon barrels through them too. And But the one thing I thought would be really great about it is that orange zesty note that you get in there. You have to chew through it a little bit or try it sometimes with the bottle open, but it's refreshing and it's an element that brings this really high proof whiskey for us. I think it's still drinkable if you guys agree at 110.
Yeah,
Like,
very drinkable.
it's just, but I thought it is going to be something for bourbon drinkers to love, and also the single malt category it's developing on your shelves for those customers to love at the same time.
Why is it that every time I'm looking for Gold Eagle, I end up with a car maintenance place?
Just be Gold Eagle Wine and Spirits.
Oh, okay.
Try that.
I'm like, Gold Eagle Chicago is a maintenance place.
Oh, so they're technically not in Chicago. They're in Libertyville. Oh, thanks, Jeeper. Your comments have been great. Also, Dalton, thank you. Locked out.
Did you get out? Oh my God, we can't take you nowhere.
If you're
okay, got it.
It's 255 Peterson Road, Libertyville, Illinois, 60048.
You got it.
Yeah.
Ask for Jake and Brett. They're two brothers that run it. They're like less than 30 years old and are doing an amazing job. And it's been I think they've been like 5 generations of their family passing it down from one to another. They were on our podcast back in
guys,
February.
I don't know about you guys, but wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
What'd you do?
Wait a minute.
No, this might be a good wait a minute.
Is $64, $65?
Oh yeah, that's a good thing. All our single barrels are $65.
Sir.
So like Solera is usually around 65 to 70, but we usually get our single barrels for no more than 65.
Sir.
I've left you speechless. I've done my job.
Sir. Yeah. Hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
No. He's back.
Yeah, this is gonna go down. It's gonna burn like a badass perm.
Well, if you guys can help me get that bottle off the shelf, I would hope that Gold Eagle would buy another one by the end of the year.
They don't
pretty
need to buy
good
another
at
one.
We're pretty good at doing. I think Jack's buying all of it out right now.
I'm just making sure that there's enough out there for everybody and their baby mama.
Oh, there is.
Receipt to check out. Can I get it sent here? Because that would be freaking dope.
I don't think they'll.
So they cannot ship. So that's
They can't. But I know a guy that does run olive oil and cold brew coffee for a living out of Chicago. So
I also know a guy who does hot sauce and olive oil here in Louisville. So I mean, there you go. There you go.
It's a thriving industry.
It's true. It's truly a thriving industry.
What's funny is my my FedEx store. I went in last week. They said,
I don't know about you guys, but I just secure full bottles. I literally just secure full bottles.
There's a lot of people that have been coming in lately and shipping hot sauce and olive oil, man. It must be a great business to be in. It's like, yes, it's thriving.
I don't know about you guys, but you may want to go and secure your bottles right now because I secure 4 bottles of this. Yeah.
How did you do that if they don't ship? It's Christmas in July, baby. There we go. Christmas in July. Let's go.
I know a guy in Chicago that I can talk to make
Let's
sure.
go. It's Christmas in July.
Everyone just start DMing Gold Eagle's Instagram and saying was on, Monday suck. We tasted the Starward single barrel. What can you do for us?
There you go. Everybody,
Yeah.
everybody
Just-
watching
yeah,
this right now,
just
watching the
DM
recast,
them
watching the
because
show.
I just purchased 4 bottles. You can tell them to hold it, but you know your name is on it.
For Jack or Jake to be reserved.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah.
Golden goldeaglewine.com. That's the place. goldeaglewine.com. So if you live in Chicago, that's your place to be. Just go
Their
to
Instagram-
goldeaglewine.com.
Their Instagram is Gold Eagle Wine. There you
Yeah,
go.
goldeaglewine.com.
Libertyville, Illinois, and they have everything there too. They have all 4 of our whiskey you're tasting tonight.
Super cool.
Big
I just
supporters.
tried it
Big
automatically,
supporters.
put 6 in my cart. So if you guys are on the show right now and you don't go pick up your bottle, chances are you won't find a bottle. So I'm just letting y'all know.
Somebody also asked earlier if I had tried.
Okay, I have a single cast. I'm soon to open again. Somebody's in Chicago. Maltmeister is in Chicago too. Yeah, just make sure. Just make sure you know if you don't go get yours right now, it's gonna be gone. I got 4.
We can make a spreadsheet, baby.
Yes, I already got 4. I got 4, so there's only 46 left right now. So, go and grab yours and talk to your people, and chances are you can get yours to yourself. Otherwise, Jake is in trouble. We're all gonna banish him out of Chicago. That's it.
I think this is the only bottle I have right now, and it's like basically gone. So
you
I might have to go refresh myself.
you probably got to go re-up.
Exactly.
Yeah, the boys at the store will be like, "What happened?" That's exactly what's about to happen.
And if you do want the Woman Who Whiskey barrel, which is phenomenal, DM Women Who Whiskey Chicago, because they do have some bottles left of it. And so if you like this one, you'll be blown away by that one.
But
And then there's Wally's, which is in Santa Monica. They have a barrel pick that's phenomenal, and they do ship across the United States.
okay,
Yeah.
But this Gold Eagle here then did it. So
You want to start letting people on here now,
yes.
Jack? We can.
So before I let people on, I will ask you guys to actually, if you can switch to Instagram, because we are going to stop the feed now on YouTube and Facebook soon. But we cannot stop the feed on YouTube and Facebook soon without actually getting the most important part of the show. The most important part of the show before we finish on YouTube and Facebook is
Advice that does not suck.
You do need to know that. Let me see. I have to take this up first. Stop showing this, and I'm gonna bring you one thing that matters here is advice that does not suck. Right. This is the best part of the show right now is advice that does not suck. You cannot come on Monday Sucks without giving us an advice that does not suck. You may have heard it from your guru. You may have heard it from your mom, dad, uncle, grandpa, somebody you care about. But give the people one advice that does not suck. And for all of you people that are trigger fingers there, don't say buy Starward because it doesn't suck. I already thought about that one, but that one doesn't count.
Should I go?
Yeah.
Go.
All right.
You get 2 minutes to shine.
I think this sum it up really easy. It's be cool, and not like be cool like James Dean, but be cool to one another. Life is tough. Life is difficult right now for so many different reasons, and we love whiskey. That's why we're all here hanging out tonight through all these virtual platforms and being nice to each other. We're laughing, we're drinking. It's what whiskey can be at its best. I'm glad I got to introduce some of this cool stuff to you guys because a couple of years ago I didn't know about it until I met my boss now, who's one of the most genuine human beings I've ever met in my entire life, and he reminded me of like working essentially if I could work for like my dad. So it's a good place to be in. And I think just being cool, being nice to one another, approaching a stranger with a smile on your face, or approaching a stranger on the internet with, come on into the whiskey community, come on to this cool platform that we have to share not just whiskey but love and appreciation for one another. So at the end of the day, be cool.
You heard it here first. The advice that does not suck off the day is be cool. Be cool, dude. Just be cool. Jake, thank you so much for actually coming on. We are gonna bring people on Instagram now to actually get their input, what they think of this Star Wars that we have. If you guys follow us, remember you can follow Jake on Key, my cool shirt, Key in the Lake. Key in the Lake.
Key in the Lake.
If you want to follow Jake on Instagram, it's Key in the Lake. Just make sure you follow him on Key in the Lake. Of course, you can follow me at Hood Sommelier, obviously, and Tim Veriper. There you can follow my Single Barrel Snob. Thank you again for y'all coming on. Now we're gonna have the good time on Instagram. If you want to join us on Instagram, make sure you do that. But we here every Monday. Thank you everyone again yesterday for all my birthday wishes. I was very excited. Everybody wished me happy birthday yesterday. I turned 37 years old. I appreciate every single one that sent me a message wishing me happy birthday. Thank you all so much. And yeah, we'll see you next Monday here on YouTube and Facebook. But the party is continuing on Instagram here. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you on Instagram later on. Y'all have a good night.